everybody. I'm not sure what day this is going to post because it's taking me a little bit longer because I obviously have this cold. But whatever day it is, I hope you're having a great day. And we're continuing on our Jane Austen month for family movie night, and we're talking about Mansfield Park from 2007. Now, I previously talked about the 1999 version of Mansfield Park, and that I feel like that's actually a pretty underrated version. I think a lot of the choices that it makes make sense to me, to add tension and drama, and to make the story more palatable to a modern audience. I like it. I like the casting in that case. Well, now we're talking about the 2007 version. Stars Billy Piper as Fanny and Blake Ritson as Edmund. And then you also have Haley Atwell as Mary Crawford. And that's kind of different because I don't think there's that many other roles that Haley Atwood played where she's like an antagonist. So it's kind of interesting to see that. So this adaptation of Mansfield Park is interesting because it was done during the same time that you had this Jane Austen season at the BBC. You had Northanger Abbey, you had Sense and Sensibility, and you had Emma, and you had this. And I think this is definitely the weakest of that group, but it's hard to 100% fault it because I just think that Mansfield Park is extremely difficult, maybe impossible to adapt for a modern audience. I think that what makes it so hard is that so much of the conflict is something that we just cannot connect with at all. Like in the rest of the Austen, it's will they, won't they, of the dating, the marriage, other social satire, criticizing the pretenses that people take and put on. That's stuff that anybody can relate to, any person can relate with. But with Mansfield Park, you have Fanny, who's basically in love with her cousin, who who's not only her cousin, but that it's basically her brother who she grew up with from a very young age. That's just sort of hard for a modern audience to connect with. But even so, like her relationship with Edmund is hard to connect with because he spends the whole book in love with Mary and ignoring her. And so it doesn't really feel that exciting for him to finally figure it out. It's like, okay, great. Finally, you figured it out. That's why I think the 1999 one is better because it adds some tension, it adds some stakes, it adds some, I just think that's what you have to do with this story. You also have like the nuts and bolts of the conflict with the play, which I think is hard for a modern audience to tap into. I mean, they kind of, you have to understand that this play that they're putting on is like a very risque play. It's like the equivalent of like teenagers doing like an X-rated play or something like that. But I think that like even now, like if they were to do a really racy play, I think there would still be a side of us to be like, oh my gosh, look how creative those teens are, or those young adults are. You wouldn't necessarily be like, that is the horrible thing that they're doing with their free time. So I think it's a little bit hard to kind of connect with that aspect as well. But I think you can definitely connect with the fact that nobody really listens to Fanny, nobody really cares. But then again, that also kind of makes the relationship with Edmund a little bit weaker because he is also part of the people who doesn't listen to her. And so, finally he says like, her moral compass has been right from the very beginning. She has been brave and not given in like the rest of us did to these temptations. And so you have that, but it's it's just, I think, hard to kind of like that relationship and to like this conflict. And it's just a really, really, really hard book. I think the best way to adapt Mansfield Park is probably from doing something like Metropolitan, which I reviewed for Jane Austen Month, which is this update. It's like a more of an homage of Mansfield Park to these like yuppies in New York in like the late 80s, early 90s. And I think that maybe like that kind of a thing is better than like a straight adaptation will ever be. The other problem that you have in this adaptation is that this Blake Ritson and Billie Piper have no chemistry at all. At least in the 1999 version, you have Johnny Lee Miller, who is like so charismatic, so great. And I think he has like decent chemistry with Frances O'Connor. And there's some like swoony moments, like when he reaches for her hand or things like that. So like there's some kind of romantic tension being built. And whereas in this one, there's like none, hardly any. And there's one scene where he sees her washing her hair towards the end, and then of course the proposal and everything, and but it all just it feels too much like an afterthought. Whereas I think the 1999 film does better at kind of building that chemistry between the two of them. They have chemistry that exists, and these two actors in this one, Billie Piper and Blake Ritson, have no chemistry at all. It makes just everything really underwhelming. You're not like rooting for them. I think that Billie Piper is fine as Fanny. I think she does everything that she can. I just think that Blake Ritson is like really not well cast. He just doesn't have that like leading man Austen kind of persona that you need, where you'll be, even if he's off screen, you're kind of thinking of him off screen. And he doesn't have that here. So that's the biggest problem, is that the development of the Fanny and Edmund relationship isn't done very well here, and you're not very invested. It feels like an afterthought, and it also is just like so many parts of it are hard to connect with, as far as the outdated elements of the story. I don't know how someone could make a Mansfield Park that I would be like, that's amazing, that's one of the best Austens. I don't know if it's possible, but let me know what you think. Do you think that there's a way to do Mansfield Park to make it appealing to modern audiences, and to tell the story well? What changes would you make? What changes would what things would you keep? All of that going in. What do you think of this version from 2007? It's watchable to me. I don't think it's like atrocious, but like it's not nearly as bad as the Dakota Johnson Persuasion, not nearly that bad, but it's just not very effective because of the chemistry and the inability to kind of make these outdated story elements compelling. That's the biggest problem. So I'd be very curious what you think about this, what you think about Mansfield Park in general. Let me know in the comment section or on Twitter. Check out all of my Jane Austen Month reviews. I would really appreciate it. I know it's kind of being stretched out a little bit this month just because I got sick and other things happened, but just doing the best I can. But I would love for you to check out all my reviews over the years for Jane Austen Month and give me your feedback on every single one of them. And please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel. I would really, really appreciate that. We also have over at Hallmarkies Podcast, we've got an episode on the new Bridget Jones movie, which is in the Jane Austen family. So check that out, and make sure you check out the Patreon group. That's the biggest way you can support everything that I'm doing and allow me to do more things, make more content that you enjoy. And I try to give you really good benefits for being a member. And then I also have the merch store. I've got some Jane Austen inspired merch in the merch store. So check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.